kind of hot. Normally it's like 40 degrees in here.
Mr. Spring surprises. There you go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Morrisville Borough Council agenda meeting of September 11th, 2018. During our moment of silence tonight, I would like you all to please remember all the lives lost on the state 17 years ago at the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Let us never forget. Please rise for a moment of silence and then our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're waiting on Virginia for a roll call, right?
I'll do it.
Okay. Okay. All right, we'll do a roll call.
No.
Yeah, could you grab that?
Mayor Vella? Here. Mr. Bowers?
Here.
Ms. Dreisbach?
Here.
Ms. Chronicle?
Here.
Ms. Larison? Mr. Ney?
Here.
Mr. Parker? Ms. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Yeager?
Here.
Okay. No one wants to talk tonight. All right. Do you want to,
Can you get Micah?
I'm sorry?
Micah. That's an extra one. Can you put these at Virginia's spot down there?
Do you want to do this discussion of the draft for the 2019 budget at this time?
Sure, if council's Well, council wants to start with that, we can.
Let's, yeah, first on for
I
President.
believe everybody received a full, no, oh, that's probably why I had an extra. Councilwoman Chronicle on the end here didn't get one for some reason. Everybody else has a draft budget folder?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Heights, why don't you start us off?
All right, so the first piece of paper that you have is just the general fund revenue that we are forecasting. As you can see, the top three revenue accounts are the real estate collection, trash collection, and the M&A reimbursement. The other two highlighted in a shade of gray are just pass-through accounts. Those are money that come in and are earmarked for the state pension and then volunteer fire relief. And again, it just breaks up the percentages. There are 41 accounts, but I tried to make this so it's easy to see. The other accounts, the 5.1%, does make a significant amount, but they're all under 5,000. So sort of just wrap that up.
Okay.
And a lot of those are restricted purpose, so.
Okay.
And there's a lot of information here. I'm sure once you guys review it, you'll have some questions.
Okay.
The next two pages are wage data sheets. The first one, A, is a 3% increase for the year. We also went through, there was one retirement, there was two positions that were phased out, that were not, and then there was one vacant position that went unfilled and we were not filled. Again, there's a lot of information on here. So, just to show you have questions going forward.
It might be helpful if you put the wage data sheet, if you've been on council prior, I'm sure you've seen this annually as part of the budget development process. But it might be helpful if you put option A and option B side by side. This is essentially the Manning table for the borough. It includes all paid positions.
Option B is similar, but has workforce reductions in the police department, the administration, staff, and increasing the part-time positions around. So as you review that, again, for all your questions, the borough manager, and you will answer accordingly. Third is the sanitation fund. This fund needs to be self-sufficient. This fund should just fund itself. What we've done in the past, in the analysis that I was reviewing, it looks like they just took whatever the vendor was, whether it was Republic, whoever we had, and broke even on that portion of the fund. This analysis and what we're suggesting with the prices here makes it a self-sufficient. So that's what you're looking at on this sheet.
Yeah, if you look at the top, sorry to interrupt you, for fiscal year 17 and 18, you can see that the sanitation fund is not self-sustaining and is therefore financially a drag on the general fund. And it's important that it be able to stand alone and support itself. And that's why we're proposing the price adjustments that are noted on this analysis.
At this point, could I just ask a question with that? The deficiencies, it wasn't covering in-house cost? It wasn't, is that what the problem was? It was only covering the actual?
Total fund costs. So it's the cost for the outsourced contract, the outsourced service, as well as internal expenses related to sanitation. Okay. So it's not covering total fund costs on an annual basis.
Got it. Okay.
Can you elaborate what in-house costs we have?
Well, your administration and administrative staff spend time fielding trash complaints, not only from council members, believe it or not, but from the general public as well. So yes, it's.
Little stuff like the postage and stuff that goes throughout and gets the mailers out.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to have a question in just 1 second. I'm just trying to run the numbers here.
Well, that's okay, because we're actually going to go back to the beginning and walk through this a little slower.
Thank
This
you.
is just a quick overview of what's in the folder.
Okay.
So continue where you left off, and then we'll regroup.
The last sheet is a top-level sheet. When I was looking at previous years, as Mike is doing now, the numbers previous years just didn't add up and make sense. Between what the millage rate was, what the fund amount was, everything will be timed back on this report. As you can see, there's nothing as of 12/31 because I'm anticipating there will be balances in funds. This is just a top-level view, cleaning everything up and start the discussion.
Now, you might be used to seeing this previously, because this top sheet, or the budget summary, has been used in prior years. We've just adjusted the format slightly. And don't pay too much attention to these bottom line numbers, because they are going to shift. For example, we haven't even filled in the column yet as of 12/31/18, because we're in the process now of projecting what certain fund balances will be at the end of the year. That will, of course, change some of these numbers. But we think we've got a pretty good handle, certainly, on the revenue side, except that we're calculating the budget using the discounted millage rate as opposed to the face value, because like 97% of taxpayers paid during the discount window. So we know that that's not revenue that we're going to be bringing in, so it doesn't make sense to use the face value.
Okay, so starting from the beginning again.
So as Micah said, when he talked about this page initially, 75% of our revenue comes from three sources. Much of the revenue makes up the 41 accounts in the general fund are either pass-through funds from the state for a restricted purpose, or it's a restricted purpose fund that can only be spent on, say, street lighting or whatever the case might be. So if you have any questions about this, you can let us know. Going back to the Manning table, the wage data sheets, A and B side by side, as Micah indicated, the bottom, this reflects salaries only, of course. Option A is essentially where we are right now in projecting the status quo through to 2019. It reflects the consolidation of the treasury duties. It reflects not backfilling a position that's been left open the last couple of years in Public Works. It reflects a retirement from the Public Works Department. One thing we are intending to keep, and it's reflected in here, is the two seasonal positions, seasonal labor positions in the Public Works Department. They went unutilized this year, but we are hoping to utilize them next year. And that bottom line number in the far right-hand column, or two far right-hand columns, are projected savings, essentially, between 18 and 19. Now, if you look at B is a bolder, more drastic version of A. If we were to implement workforce reductions in various departments, we could achieve the savings noted at the bottom there. However, I need to caution you that if we were to implement B, it would probably take us about a year to do that, to implement those changes. And we would likely not realize much of that savings in year one, but would likely realize most, if not 100% of it, in year 2. We would need time to recruit, hire, train workers to basically take over for full-time personnel.
If I could just go back to A real quick. Under the police department, I'm getting a different number other than 3%. I'm getting 3.6%. I don't know if there's an error in the math there, but you might want to take a look at that because the 36,795 overall divided by the 1,008,096 comes out to approximately 3.64%.
If you note the crossing guards.
Go ahead.
That's probably where you're off.
Thank you.
Okay, that's
Yeah, if you note the difference in rates for 18 and 19 between the crossing guards, it's actually the same number of crossing guards. We're just calculating correctly the true cost annually of the crossing guards.
Okay, thank you.
The prior number was incorrect compared to actual anyway, so. One other thing I want to note, under the library, we increased the number of clerks from 5 to 6. Not sure if this will materialize yet, but our reason for doing so is if council intends to adopt the employee handbook, which is on the agenda to discuss later, so I won't get into all the detail now. We'll talk about it then. We think we'll be able to absorb, if the employees of the library, as with the police department, have to comply with the 30-hour cap for part-time workers, 30-hour-a-week cap, we're thinking we can absorb that over the existing staff at the library, but it might be necessary to add another position. So we went ahead and we added it to the manning table and modeled it for budget purposes in case we had to do that.
So what you're saying is no additional hours, no additional expense, just a redistribution of those hours.
Well, that's correct so far, but if it proves necessary to add a staff member to cover X number of hours a month, we might have more hours with that staff member than just what we need.
Okay.
Because someone may not want to work just X number of hours a month, so.
Okay.
So if there is a net increase in the number of hours at the library, it would be minimal, is what I'm saying. Any other questions, comments, or concerns about manning table? I realize you're just getting this tonight,
Yeah.
so your questions will probably be more likely to
Yeah.
trickle in over a few days or next week or perhaps at Monday's meeting. You'll need time to chew on this, and we're not asking you to make any decisions on any of this tonight either. This is being
Okay.
presented to you for advisory reasons.
Okay.
And as for the sanitation fund, if you look at 18, 19, and 20, I think you'll notice that the adjustments we're proposing for 19 and 20 are fairly minimal, but would return the fund to the black, and it would be self-sustaining.
Okay. A couple questions on that. The non-participating. The 1,207 non-participating, I believe they're businesses, correct? This is like the fair share.
This is fair share, yes.
Do we have a justification for that? Like, what are we charging for through fair share?
It was legislation enacted by a previous council. You're welcome to read the ordinance.
I'm aware of, I'm just wondering from internally, you've been here for a while. Are you seeing that there is a cost involved with not participating?
I would certainly say that there is a cost involved and that those people should contribute to the fund for that cost. Whether this is the right way to do it or the right mechanism or the right rate, I mean, we could spend the next week debating that.
We may.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do any of our does the recycling grant that we get go towards this fund?
The recycling grant we get does go into this fund, but again, that is not a guaranteed revenue source.
But isn't the commercial recycling and the $3,000, isn't that what we're expecting? The $5,000 and the $3,000?
No,
Okay.
that's not the grant.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think you get about, is it like $15,000 a year, I think, from recycling over the past couple of years? It's relatively minimal. We're hoping to do better on that number, but
It's actually been going down.
it's been going down over the last couple of years, which is why we're looking to maximize our performance under that in a different way. And council took steps a few months ago in order to effort that. But that's not a guaranteed source of revenue, that state grant, so.
So if we got in more money or even the same, do we apply it to this account, this fund, so that next year when you do this calculation, it would reduce costs if we brought in a fair amount?
It does go into the fund, yes. Whatever we get from the state for the recycling grant goes into the sanitation fund.
On the sheet, I just noticed that there is a typo in the 2018.
What-
Under commercial, that 85 is not a number that should be sanitation.
What number?
What number are you?
It's just the header.
Yes.
This is wrong. That number doesn't represent anything. It should be sanitation miscellaneous.
Okay.
I just noticed that.
Well, the nerve of you.
And some extra keys.
We'll clean that up and include a fresh version of this graph in your Friday packet.
Okay. Well, I would imagine the council's going to want to look through this more intently. Any questions you have on this, direct them to the manager and Micah for those answers on that. We have this added to the agenda Monday, correct? 9K. To authorize the advertising and adoption of the preliminary.
Yes.
With that said, are we choosing an A and a B? We're choosing this whole thing at this point till we,
Well, we're making options available to you. It's council's decision if you wish to choose A or B. A, like I said, is a continuation of the status quo into 2019. B is alternative course of action. And we'll be looking for your guidance as to which direction you wish to go in. But keep in mind what I said, should you choose B, it would take us the better part of a year just to implement it. The savings you would realize in the first year would actually be minimal. It's really year two where you would realize most of the savings from doing so. And remember, those charts only depict salaries. So fringes are not factored into those numbers.
Okay.
Scott, is that a all or nothing proposition for B, or that can be piecemeal?
No, it's not all or nothing. I mean, we could look at B and customize it
Okay,
any way you like.
okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, so council have any more
I
questions?
just want to
on this?
thank Scott and Micah for getting this ball rolling earlier than I've seen in prior years.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. I know that we're just scratching the surface here, but it's a step in the right direction. Thank you both. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, I think this is the first time in my recollection, I've been on council my 6th year now, that we've actually got something to start with at such an early time, which is good. And we'll have several other meetings on whether this ups and down and the different changes according to, like I said, the projected monies are going to be also by the end of the year. But this is a very nice start. So thank you for working to get this to us. Does council have any more questions on this? You're going to look it over at this point? You have anything else to say at this point with it? No? Okay. Take a look at that. Okay. Was there anybody on public comment? Okay.
We don't have any
Okay.
agenda paperwork to hand out this meeting?
Was there one out there?
Well, the agenda, there's no agenda for this meeting. The agenda we're going over is for Monday night.
Usually you have one out there with,
I'm sure we have an extra if you would like. In fact, there's one right there at the corner of the table, if you want to grab that one.
Has that got the updated 9K?
Oh, yeah, this agenda is going to change. We have several changes to this agenda already that we're going to talk about as we go through it.
Okay,
So a new version of this is going to be in your meeting packet tomorrow for Monday night.
okay. Well, since there isn't any public comment this time, we'll move on. We're going to talk about the approval of the minutes. We have the July 16th ones that were recirculated to the council. There was a message from the manager saying that he had cut back, done some sections he had taken out to make them less. I had sent an email back to the manager with my view on this, and I also get that it was said that, we approved the minutes the month before, and they were a little bit more, and I personally had noticed that they were getting more. I have to agree with the manager that when we voted to do the minutes and to cut back on what was in there, it really should only be stuff that's, anything that's relevant to the agenda, action items, and official action. And anything else, the minutia, doesn't need to be in there. We are at least following what we need to do by law. Otherwise, you get where someone doesn't want this one in, someone wants this added in, someone wants this taken out, and next thing you know, you're back up to 20 pages again. So there's no reason why it can't just be what it needs to be by law and cut those minutes down so we don't have that anymore.
But just to clarify, Madam President, if I may.
Sure.
We still have the option, if we have a statement that we want reflected in the minutes, that we could provide that in writing, correct?
Yes, you could have it attached to the minutes. You could offer it in writing and have that attached where they can put that at the end. And that's been done before. It just saves the secretarial time as well as the going back and forth as to what's going to be in there. But if it's something pertinent that needs to be added in there, yes, it can be. So I don't know if anyone has anything to say about those minutes. Are they okay with them? Would you want them up for a vote? Everyone's okay at this point? You've reviewed the next draft that you got?
Well,
Okay,
yeah, in light of the fact that we have the video to rely on,
right.
is there a consensus that the butchering I did of the version you saw is okay with all of you?
Yes,
I'm fine with it, yeah.
yes. Okay, so we'll put them up for a vote. Yeah, and in the future, like I said to you, just cut them back. We don't need all the extra stuff.
We'll have a bare bones version from this point forward.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Okay, there's, well, Treasury, we were just actually talking about some of our financial stuff. We have the bills will be done on Monday. The mayor, do you have anything you'd like to say tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay, we don't have any council report at this time. We'll get a new junior council person in the future. We'll move on to the action items. At this time, Scott, would you like to mention things that will be added, or you want to wait till the end?
I'll wait to the end and share with you some additions, but contrary to normal course for our agenda meetings, we do have some things we would like council to vote on tonight
Okay,
because they're time sensitive, so.
okay. One of them is 9A, correct?
Yes,
And the other one would be 9H, right, the video program?
and 9G
I'm sorry.
and 9H.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one, 9G and 9H, special counsel. Okay, so there's 3. Okay. All right, well, let's start first with the first action item. And since we are going to be voting on this, I'm going to read this out and then call for a motion. 9A is a call for a motion to approve the agreement between Morrisville Borough and the Capitol Health to take over the EMS operations effective Sunday, September 23rd, 2018. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any comments on this motion?
Quick question, is this for regarding the contract itself? The draft contract that we had received in our mail? Is that what
Yes.
we're?
You're approving the contract and us executing it.
Okay. During the presentation, the question was raised that who was going to maintain the building.
Yes.
I noticed in this contract on section 6.2, during the presentation, the contractor agreed to maintain the building. However, in section 6.2 here, the borough is also stated that they will maintain the
Well, it's a division of responsibility. Under your current agreement with Morrisville Ambulance Squad, they built the building and technically own the building. The borough owns the property. And under the agreement, if they cease providing public services or default on terms of the agreement, the building reverts back to the ownership of the borough, which that has essentially taken place.
Okay.
So the borough is going to be taking over some responsibility for maintenance of the building that no tenant in their right mind would ever want to agree to. But anything internal in terms of maintenance to the building will be the responsibility of the tenant under the lease terms.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Yep.
And I do believe it was mentioned about the utilities. That's something that they handle, correct, on there? How's that work with that?
All the utilities will remain the same, and Capitol Health will pay those bills. If any of those utilities should revert back to the borough because the borough is now the owner of the building, for example, if a utility doesn't want their bill in the tenant's name, they want it in the property owner's name, then we would simply pass those bills on to Capitol Health for either reimbursement to the borough or direct payment.
Okay. So basically, we're a landlord for that building now.
We're proud owners, lock, stock, and barrel of the building.
Which
Yes.
I guess if you look at it, it's actually something we should be taking care of, because otherwise you'd be in a situation where you don't want a building on your property that you have the property, someone else has the right to do what they want to do with that property, whether it's rent it or keep it. And situation happened like with the pool. There was an outside entity, owned that property on our land, and when they defaulted, we had a heck of a time getting that cleaned up. So it's better if we own that building, which is in their contract, actually, once they go out of business. So,
Public Works has already been through the building and is working out their operation and maintenance plan going forward.
okay. I just have one question on 2.3 was, we voted by the millage on what we were given, which came out to this amount here of the $134,000. Is this a
Actually, it
fixed amount?
didn't. Our millage comes out to about $120,000 a year.
Okay,
Falls Township's millage is about another 14,000.
Okay.
That's where the $134,000 figure comes from.
Okay.
But if you look later on in that paragraph, you'll see that our contribution is capped at the 2 mills.
Okay.
Which isn't, by the way, by our choice. That 2 mil cap is set by the state.
Right, okay. Oh, I just see that. Okay, thank you, I got that. All right. Anyone else have any other questions?
Actually, Jim from Capitol Health is here. If anybody has any questions for him while he's here.
I just have another quick one on the building. Will we see a line item in our budget for the future to start setting aside money to do any necessary repairs to the building?
We will see that in the Public Works budget, yes.
Okay.
Because I would imagine the building has to be at least 20 years old. Is it 30? Because I think their contract was about, it was actually coming up for expiration, the contract. So, yes, I would imagine we'd have to look in not too near future, a roof or whatever it would need. I think it's in good condition, but maybe it needs to be looked at to see what it's going to actually need also. Okay, is there anything else, anyone? Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Does anyone mind if I put the air on?
Please do.
Oh, okay. Danielle's not here, so we can freeze ourselves out.
Hit the button.
She's always cold.
Councilman Bowers,
Yes.
Councilman Dreisbach,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chronicle.
Yes.
Councilman Nay,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
and Councilman Yates.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. It's been a pleasure. Good luck.
Okay, next was the, we're not voting on this one, but 9B is the call for motion to approve the emergency operations plan for Morrisville. I brought some stuff to Scott today, digging in the archives, because I've been on council 6 years, I've never gotten anything from, on what our emergency plan was. And I knew they always had a team, I guess you would call it, that was a group voted by the council that was, would work with the emergency team when a disaster happens. I found some of that information because I had nothing to compare to, and the plan that the chief gave us is actually, a lot of it's boilerplate. It's something that the state has uniformly for every municipality, so if you look at theirs, look at ours, a lot of that is very similar. The only thing I noticed that was, some of the things was proclamations for, not proclamations, proclamations for claiming a disaster. Back when 2005 happened, it was the vote of the council president as well as the mayor when it came to declaring that, because the fact it was an emergency that was outside of the borough, it was something that could be handled just within the borough. Since I found some of this information, it was copied tonight, and I'm going to give it to the council just to take a look at it so you can have a little bit of a comparison as to what some of the positions were, since no one ever saw anything for any emergency plan before. We never had a comparison. If they want to look that over before this vote comes down to see if there's something that should be adjusted. Some things that I just looked at, it was just small things to be tweaked. In the chief's plan, he has the chief financial director when it comes to voting for any revenue we would have to spend in case of an emergency. He really should have in there in parentheses at least the borough manager, some of those defined titles, not a name, but a title. Some of the other stuff has a title put in there, so just some of those small things need to be corrected. But I think the council should have an opportunity to at least look over some of the stuff I found to see if they want to vote this or hold it till next month. They can make a choice on that. Did you make copies of that, Scott, for everyone, or we'll just put it in the packet for them to get this week?
I just made a copy for me.
Okay.
Do you want everybody to have that?
Yeah, sure, you want
All
to?
right. How about we put it in Friday's packet?
All
Is that all right?
Yeah, so they can all just at least take a
Okay.
look at what was on the books back then.
Can you put those in Friday's folder for Friday? Oh, did you? You're good.
Thank you, Virginia.
She's a mind reader.
I don't know if anybody else has, they've looked over the plan. We've had several copies. The last one was some added stuff in there. I started looking over it. I didn't get through all of it yet.
So I do have a question, though. If we're going to get this additional information on Friday, we're going to be asked to vote on Monday. If we have recommendations, how would that fly?
It's really up to the council. I mean, unless it's a dire emergency that it has to be September.
Oh, that's right. We have your meeting packet going out tomorrow. We'll include it
Okay,
in
that helps a little
Okay.
bit. At least we'll be able to
All
get some
right.
feedback. Thank you.
Take a look at the stuff, and council's going to decide. Okay.
I have a quick question for Scott on that. Maybe you can look into, or if you've discussed it, and I apologize because I just read it after Jim left. But in the plan, it names the health medical officer as the squad chief. Was there any discussion with Capital Health of them assuming that position, or?
Yeah, it's going to be Jim.
Okay.
He is effectively the squad chief.
But does he know that would be in the emergency management plan? Okay.
He's heading for the door. He's like, okay.
He's the chief of operations, emergency operations for Capital Health.
Okay. Is there anything else on that?
That's what I'm getting at, is most of these probably aren't paid positions for some things, or are they? Will he get paid for that?
Part of his job, just like it's part of mine.
Yeah.
But it's not in his contract that we just approved. mean,
It's part of the Bucks County Emergency Response Plan.
The health and medical officer is, we could name Debbie, or we could name Micah that, even though it doesn't have to be the squad chief, is all I'm saying, is that's what, it's in the plan. I wanted to make sure he was okay with it.
Yeah, he's okay with it. He knows all about it. We wouldn't surprise him.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. The next one is, well, I guess we're getting this in our packet this week, right? The MMO? This is standard, everyone knows, for our obligation for the pension plans.
Yeah, you can review it all you wish, but you can't make any
Right.
changes to it anyway. so-
Exactly. It's a pass-through money, so everyone knows we do this every year. You'll be getting that information. 9D is call for motion to approve the millage for the fire company, which is another part of our budget we automatically do. But I don't know if anyone has any questions on any of these. It's pretty standard.
Do we know the dollar amount on that at this point?
No, it'll be on your revised agenda.
Maybe Monday? Friday?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
we've gotten some recent payments from the tax collector, so we want to make sure it's as accurate as possible.
Awesome. Thank you.
But we will have it for the Monday meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Call for motion to approve the millage for the new Capital Health EMS per our budget, and we'll also get those figures,
Yes.
correct? Okay. 9F is call for motion to award the consortium salt bid. Everyone got the information. God bless you.
It's actually a
okay.
savings over last year. So
Yes, it's about a week or so ago, we got that in our packet. Pretty standard, good price on that. Anyone have any questions on that particular motion? Okay. All right, the next one we're going to be voting on is 9G. Call for motion to authorize the borough manager to engage Christopher Gerber Esquire of the law firm Sienna Belwar to serve as special labor counsel. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this motion?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I know at our reorg meeting, we appointed a special labor counsel. Was this that firm? Because we still don't have the minutes up. So why are we going with a different firm, I guess, is my question.
I don't think they were specific to labor.
No, it's not the same firm. This is a different firm. This attorney specializes in municipal police departments. I believe there was a memo in a previous council delivery to this effect. And as special labor counsel, he's being retained for a specific purpose, and that's to handle an outstanding grievance from the police union and also arbitration with the police union.
No, I understand all that, but I'm saying back in January, we appointed somebody for, I think, this particular position.
No, I think council appointed an assistant solicitor
Correct.
Yes,
at
if
your
we,
reorganization
yes, we
meeting.
did.
Is that what it was called? Okay.
That you
Yes.
could assign
Utilize.
any tasks you wish.
Right.
Or if there's a conflict with Mr. Flagger's firm,
Okay.
the assistant solicitor would handle that matter on your behalf. This is special labor counsel specifically for purpose of the police arbitration and grievance.
Okay. Thank you.
I did go back and review the video on that. This was, as Corinne pointed out, from January 2nd. The videos were started around the 22.5-minute mark. The firm was Obermeyer, Redmond, Maxwell, and Hipple.
Thank you, because I can never remember their name.
No,
Sounds it.
They were appointed as our special counsel for labor issues. It was specifically mentioned that way. So I guess, council voted unanimously for this firm, and we seem to be doing an end run around them and going with a different firm.
Well, not really. Council is welcome to engage whoever you want. I gave you a recommendation. It's up to council who you wish to engage.
Well, this was already voted on, and they were put in as special counsel for labor issues.
Right. And they'll respond to the direction of council. So if you want them to handle the matters before us, we could certainly do
Wasn't
that.
that already decided vis-a-vis the vote itself?
No, you can assign any law firm or attorney any work you wish to assign them on behalf of the borough.
Okay, so I guess my follow-up question then, why wasn't this firm recommended back in reorg, the one that we're presenting tonight?
Because council didn't ask for a recommendation from me for a firm to handle police matters, or I would have.
Okay, so do you believe it's your conviction then that this firm that you're recommending has more experience than Obermeyer?
In police, municipal police union matters, yes.
Okay.
If I could make a comment. When the memo came about engaging Christopher Gerber for this particular contracts and arbitration with the and grievance with the police department, Mr. Gerber, several of us sitting on this council worked with him during the Cornerstone. He worked with the former lawsuit with the former mayor, and he was very good at what he did. He specializes in that. He teaches law issues for PSAB. He just held a class training when I was up at the conference. And when the memo came through, I asked Scott the same thing. And I really, for me personally, I didn't have any problem hiring Christopher Gerber, even though we did put in for the special counsel to also utilize, if we choose to, the other firm in January. For this particular thing, I thought that Christopher Gerber would be a good pick for that also. That's just my personal opinion, but council, if they choose otherwise, that's fine. But I was personally okay with Chris Gerber. Anyone else?
I'll just mention, I was at the PSAB conference where he spoke this year, and I was very impressed with him and his knowledge of police matters. And also, I just pulled up the meeting minutes from the reorg online, and although Debbie said you can use Obermeyer for special labor, she didn't directly say it's only going to be for special labor. I think it's a misconception to think that. And also, they were there, for the gist I get of it is if there's something that Flagger couldn't handle, or he was too busy, or we wanted to go for somebody who does real estate transactions or other specialty things. That's why we brought them on, so we wouldn't have to do a vote ahead like we're doing now.
Right.
Because it's a new firm, we're doing the vote to bring them on
Right.
for a specific thing.
Well, as I mentioned, that video from January 2nd is available on the 22.5-minute mark, spells out everything that was said very clearly. Okay.
And the council can, they have a choice. If they don't want Gerber and the majority says they would like to go with Obermeyer, we can go with that too. This particular issue that we're dealing with, I personally thought that Chris Gerber would be good for that. Anyone else?
I've also sat in with, at the conference with, that Mr. Gerber was leading, and I spoke with him afterwards, and he's very knowledgeable on this particular item. And I also was here during all of the Cornerstone fiasco, and it wasn't a pretty sight, but he handled it well.
Yes, he did. Okay. Is council okay with this motion?
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay,
We actually need to vote on it.
okay. We take a roll call now?
Councilman Bowers?
Yes.
Councilman Dreisbach?
Yes.
Councilwoman Chronicle?
Yes.
Councilman Nay?
No.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yes.
And Councilman
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1. Okay. The next one also will be voted on. 9H, call for motion to authorize the borough manager to execute the community video program agreement with CGI Communications, Inc. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'd like to hear more about it.
Okay. And a second. Okay, any questions or comments on this motion? I'm sure there will be.
Yep.
Yeah, just wondering, in reviewing all the information on the sheet that was in the packet, I didn't notice any cost.
That's because there is none.
Oh,
I think it says in the agreement, at no cost to the borough.
It's a free service?
It is. They sell local advertising dollars to offset the cost.
Free is good?
So they'll be going to the business community for ads.
thanks for asking that question, Mr. Nay. That was the same question I had. I missed it too.
Well, to expand on that, so if Summer Seat, for example, wanted to advertise, that would be considered without any cost to them? Because they're not a business.
No, I think you have to pay to advertise.
So it's not just any great thing in Morrisville, all the gems can't just get on this thing then. So in a sense, they are selling advertising.
Yeah, they're selling advertising to private businesses who wish to market their business or products or services to support the cost of producing the video. Summer Seat might be included in the borough's video. So there really would be no reason for them to buy an ad.
Yeah, and I'm not speaking on behalf of some, I'm just trying to understand the program, because that, for example, isn't a business, but it's a great thing we have here. And I assume the borough at some point or some way makes some revenue back, or is this nothing and comes back to the borough?
No.
So it's just really these people sell advertisement, so they're the one that's.
Right, they will sell the ads on the video to subsidize the cost of it so that there's no cost to the borough.
Yeah, I'm sort of familiar with it, and like we were just talking, Bristol does it, and it's not, it's not unusual.
Yeah, if you look on Bristol Township's website, they did it, I want to say a year or two ago. So there's a sample one there if you want to see what one looks like. Or you can go on CGI's website where they have samples from across the country.
And just for those who are listening in, so this is really to advertise the town itself, right?
Yes, this
Really
is
put us
like
in a
a
good light.
marketing piece, community video.
And although we're not sure about
It's about 3 minutes.
Well, yeah, and although we're not sure about Summer Seat being a part of that, certainly it ties into Patriots Park and is right there and would be talked about, I'm sure.
Certainly, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, because I'm sure the next question is, why are we voting on this at an agenda meeting instead of a regular meeting?
Right.
Yes.
Why is this time sensitive? It's time sensitive because if we're going to do it this year, they want to maximize daylight for production of the video. Otherwise, if we weren't going to vote on it tonight, we were going to push this off until the spring of 2019.
Okay.
It also looks nicer with colored tree leaves.
Right?
This is true.
Is there any back-end cost to the borough on this? Can our website or server, did we host the videos, or do we have, is there any IT part of this that we'd have to support?
No, we just will add a link to the borough website, or whoever else we authorize to have our link, like I don't know, the school district, or I don't know, the Summer Seat have a website?
Yes.
They do? Okay, so they could, whoever we chose to be able to include the link on their website, community groups or
Business
civic
association.
organizations, the business association, sure.
Okay, so it's just a link, it's not actual hosting of the videos and,
Right.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Have a roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not public comment. What was on the agenda? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. What's the question?
If you could just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Noel Sperry. I'm at 531 Prospect Avenue, Morrisville, Pennsylvania. Who is going to be deciding what is going to be in the video itself?
The borough has final say on editorial control of the content.
And how much of it will be advertising versus editorial comment?
The video itself is all about the borough. The ads and logos around it are depending on what businesses buy the space and whether it's just their logo or whether it's a clickable, to go to their website or not.
You mean like a link?
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to kind of get an idea what the format was going to be for. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Chronicle?
Yes.
Councilman Nay?
Yes.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yes.
And Councilman Yates?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Sorry. Okay, this next one we won't be voting on. It's a call for the motion to adopt the employee policy manual. That'll be on for Monday night. We got a number 5, is it?
We're on number 5.
Oh, number 5, edited. My only question is, what is it? Since I didn't look at this next one, what is the change on that? Is it something little?
Well, you can actually be assured that between versions 3, 4, and 5, there's no substantive change other than we've reordered some of the categories and the table of contents and the index. There have been no material changes in terms of language.
There
Okay,
were a few formatting changes in the last one.
okay. Is that, okay, all right.
And Madam President, if you don't mind, I threw this effective date of October 1, 2018 on here, subject to discussion with council. As you know, we're going to have some implementation issues with this. So we can either keep that as the effective date with the understanding that we're going to need more time than that to get fully compliant with our own manual, or we can extend that effective date by, to November 1, December 1, January 1. It's up to council.
Do you want like a contingent put on it?
Well, it's to
When-
afford us time to deal primarily with the issue of the cap on part-time employee hours.
Okay,
I would prefer to have a reasonable expectation of a date that is the actual implementation date. My concern with just extending it is how long, when does it actually go into effect? So if you have some concept on a reasonable timeline, I would prefer to vote on the reasonable timeline.
Well, again, that's difficult to say. With the library, we're going to, again, try to absorb those hours with existing staff if that can be accomplished. But this presents more of a challenge for the police department because
my opinion, if you implement this and it would cross over to the police department, especially with a date like this, you're creating a disservice to the community because you could actually have a situation where you have no officers on the street if you say part-timers are limited to 30 hours. We've been round and round with that question for several years. Even in this January, the solicitor gave us a new opinion. We went back and forth, quoting different things with the law. The borough doesn't have 45 full-time employees, so we don't feel that it's necessary, but of course, we're not the council, so we're not trying to overstep. But if you have, let's just say something as innocent as the flu, you have a couple officers out, the part-timers who would step up and take it, because we don't replace full-timers with part-time officers, as been said many times, we supplement. If all of a sudden they're not available or they already hit their 30-hour week, who's going to be on the street? No one. Keep that in mind.
But isn't that, Mr. Mayor, isn't that a labor issue, though? Isn't that a legal matter that we're offering more than 30 hours a week to somebody and not providing benefits?
In my opinion, absolutely not. I will be more than happy to give you the correspondence that we went back and forth with Mr. Flager.
I'm aware of the correspondence.
Well, then you know that the borough doesn't have more than 45 full-time employees, so it does not.
I do know that, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't impact.
Well, actually, that's not all of the issue. If I could elaborate, the borough solicitor is of the view that because of IRS regulations and the Affordable Care Act, which I think the Affordable Care Act is what the mayor is alluding to. But actually, if you go on irs.gov, it defines full-time and part-time. But the borough solicitor isn't the only one who's brought this issue to our attention. The borough's insurance broker has brought to our attention, as has their legal counsel, that this is a problem that the borough needs to deal with for the same two reasons: the IRS definition of full-time and part-time, as well as the provisions of the Affordable Care Act. So,
well, if my recollection is correct, and we have all the emails, Randy was kind enough to, like I said, we went back and forth. He told me he was concerned with the grievance, and I understand being, working out of a union hall so we looked back and we said, well, this has been never an issue. It's been several contracts. In fact, the Chief McClay went to the police union and they said they have no issues. So I said, well, I thought that was going to be the end of it. And then Randy, basically, his last word says, I don't think it's a very good policy, and he's certainly entitled to that, and there's certainly could be some issues. But again, if you implement this, part-time officers aren't going to fall out of the sky. You could create a situation that there's no police on the street.
it is a legit concern. Good part-time police officers, I've got some experience with this, are tough to come by.
So the cure for this at this point is you're saying that we just don't implement it on October 1st, that the police department would need more time to be able to comply with this.
Yes, and the police chief is going to have to add part-time police officers.
Okay.
So you're going to have to.
So
you're going to have to change that policy. When we wanted more police officers this year, council made it known that you didn't want us to hire more. So you have to kind of take all that into consideration.
Mr. Mitchell, just to clarify for me, so we're talking on an average of 10 to 15 hours a week. that from 30 to 40 to 45 hours is the issue, right? So we're talking about one part-time employee, in essence, one part-time, less than 30-hour employee. When we're talking about gaps in the scheduling, right, that's really what we're talking about, right? Unless I'm mistaken and this
Well,
person's working
you
much
have to
more than
keep in
that.
mind with part-timers, their availability is all over the board. And
Right.
some work more hours in a week, a month than others. I would think that the chief is going to need to probably add one, perhaps two part-timers to his roster to fill in the gaps.
Okay, but I just wanted to make sure that,
And I'm not sure, in fact, at the current Manning table, I think he's got 6 part-timers approved. How many is he at? Do you know, is he at 6? Okay. Because I know we hired a couple more back in the spring.
so I just want to put into perspective, though, that we're talking about 10 to 15 hours a week. We're not talking about 100 hours a week where we're going to be without coverage. We're looking to fill a gap of 10 to 15 hours a week. Is that correct?
No one knows. We've been through this many times. If no one's available, that could be much more than 10 hours. And I would never diminish and downplay no coverage. I don't care if it's one shift.
I'm not diminishing anything. I'm putting it in perspective to make sure that we're not causing mass hysteria based on non-coverage when we're really talking about one person who is required to work no more than 30 hours, who's putting 40 to 45 hours a week in. We're not talking about cutting 15 people at 30 hours a week. We're talking about figuring out how to fill 10 to 15 hours a week. I just want to make sure that's in perspective. That's all.
Well, we have different perspectives because
I couldn't tell you how many of the part-timers routinely go over 30 hours a week now. I can't give you that context as we sit here, but.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, so how would you like to do the wording on this? You don't want that date set in there? You want,
Are you asking me?
yeah? What
Well,
would you
if we
prefer?
stick with the October 1st date, it's got to be with the caveat that for those two situations, the library and the police department, that this may take longer than October 1st to achieve this. Or we can extend the effective date altogether in order to give us more time and make it cleaner. What's
What would you-
council's preference?
Is there any way to get data that provides us some insights on how many officers are working over 30 hours that are part-time? So we have a better perspective on what we're talking about here and what the
Well,
gap is. that
yeah,
needs to
I'm
be
sure
filled.
if we ask the
Okay.
chief, he can give us that information.
how many-
Excellent.
'cause
Thank you, sir.
You need to know how many officers you need to adjust that time frame.
Would it work out better if we put December 1st, and that way we'd be pretty well done with the budget, and we would know what we're going to require as employees?
And worst comes to worst, if we needed an extended time on, you could request the council to extend the time, correct?
True,
On
yes.
implementation, right?
Yep.
Amend the date. Would that be okay with
Are
the
you
council?
comfortable with December 1st?
Okay, and with the option, we can amend it if we
Yes.
need to at that time. Is that good? Then we're past the budget time and see where we stand with that and give the chief a little more time. Is that good with you, Scott?
It's fine with me.
Okay. Okay, the next one, we actually had talked about this before, so I saw it was finally on there. Call is authorize the removal of the parking meters. She should elaborate on that. They don't really.
Can we
work,
get
right?
rid of these junkers or what?
I figured you'd have something good to say about it.
And sell them?
They're not really up to
Scrap metal.
I think we'd be lucky to get scrap for
To
them.
residents,
Yeah. they-
hand them out.
Well, it may not be as easy as 1, 2, 3. If this is a direction you're looking to go in, I don't know the whole backstory on these meters. I know you guys have been talking about this stuff for years, but my suggestion would be if you're amicable to removing these dinosaurs, why don't we ask the solicitor to draft an ordinance? You can review a draft on Monday to establish 30 minutes or 1 hour parking curbside in the business district, no trucks, no buses. And if you like what you see on Monday, we will advertise it. It is an ordinance, so we will have to give public notice. and we can put that on council's agenda for the October meeting. In the meantime, if you're supportive of moving in this direction, Public Works can order the signs and prepare for the removal of the parking meters and the installation of the signs. Now, this would just be, of course, where there's existing parking meters in the business district.
Okay.
What's council's temperature on this?
Well, I have a question. If we do that, are we going to have more enforcement than the current parking meters that are there? Are we just not enforcing them because they don't work?
Well, they can't be enforced. I don't want to speak for the mayor, but I fully understand the police department's reluctance in enforcing the parking meters because they're not certified by a third-party certification company, and no third-party certification company will certify them because of the condition they're in and their age. So I don't know what we're clinging to these things for.
For $800 a year in revenue, we can't
500.
afford, is it only 500?
It's about $500 a year. We look
budgeted for
back,
8.
last 3 or 4 years on this? I mean,
It was budgeted for 8.
I thought I just
Yeah, we can't afford
remembered
to do it.
too, within the last year, didn't the chief go up to Easton for parts for these?
we'll include those parts in the scrap.
The scrapper. It's not even worth the
Some have been
salary we're
repaired,
paying.
but as you were-
Market
Collect money.
rates.
but none have been, the borough never had them certified, so even even the repaired ones, you really can't write tickets against.
Yeah, this is why you would need the solicitor to draft an ordinance that'll have the effect of law. The police department can then enforce and write tickets on. The question is, do you want to limit it to 30-minute parking or 1-hour parking in the business district? What's your pleasure?
Is there any rush with writing the ordinance? Can we start with taking those down and work on the ordinance for October?
Well, my only concern is if we do, and then people pull up and they're camping curbside forever in front of somebody's business.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Unintended consequence of not having a plan for implementation.
Okay.
Someone, please tell the police chief I said plan. He loves that word.
Okay, so as far as we're just put the motion up to remove those parking meters, it can happen at the time we finally get the ordinance rolling?
Yeah, we
and
can
then-
elaborate on the wording here. I just couldn't put everything I just said into a one sentence without doing it verbally here at the
Okay.
meeting.
All right.
So is your pleasure to move ahead with this, yes or no?
Let's get rid of them.
If yes, do you want 30 minutes or 1 hour?
An hour.
1 hour.
That's really the two questions we're looking for here.
I think an hour's more than fair. If somebody needs to
He's
get
getting their
more
hair cut at
business.
Jags or
Yeah,
something.
Might
To
have
that
to
effect,
wait, yeah.
I think 1 hour is good.
Okay? So we're authorizing the solicitor to prepare a draft for Monday? Michael, pedal to the metal. I'm sure you guys have a template somewhere we can work with.
Okay.
Just a quick question on that, and a point to Corinne. Do you have any contacts with the business outreach? Can you shoot them an email and get their feelings on what would work for them?
I mean, I would just say that I would think that they would want it to be a half hour because there's plenty of parking basically behind the Stockham building, but I could certainly put some feelers out there to see how they feel and let the council know.
Could you, is it possible to get that information over to Scott and the solicitor if you get some feedback in the next couple of days?
Absolutely.
So that they could give some idea for that ordinance, and if it's better, the business owners say it's half hour, we can go for that, whatever we feel is best. But if you can get an insight from that, that'd be great. Okay, anyone else on our meters? Okay, we're moving from that. Okay, last is what we discussed tonight is 9K is a motion for the authorization of the advertising and adoption of the preliminary 2019 budget. Everyone has that tonight. Get some light reading on the weekend compared to some of the stuff we have. Your notes, any questions you have about that, please make sure you contact Micah or the manager about it to get those questions answered. Remember, this is our first.
Let me ask a question on that.
Sure.
What we received tonight, that's not the full draft budget, is it?
No.
Okay.
You
Just
mean
wanna
the
make sure.
printout of the line item by line item that we've gone through at least 3 times exhaustively. No, I wasn't going to bore you with that just
Bore
yet.
me all night.
Yeah, there's going to be several preliminaries as they get adjusted and more meetings. And this is just a starting point as to where we are at this point, and we'll be looking for with the revenues coming in by the end of the year and expenditures. But we're at least starting early to take a look at the budget for the first time, so that's good. See where our jumping off point is here.
So just
Ready to jump.
Just looking at this, though, I mean, it gives us, if you're going to advertise adoption of the preliminary budget on October 15th, that only gives us the next agenda meeting to discuss the budget before we advertise the
There's a
preliminary.
finance committee meeting too.
Yeah, but the finance committee isn't the entire council to look at it.
Yeah. well,
Everyone
you-
is
You know, the
welcome to join.
preliminary budget can change before the final budget. Yeah. Plus, you're going to have a public hearing sandwiched in between there, which may or may not prompt changes.
Okay.
Really hot in here. Maybe I'm losing.
I mean, this was just my suggestion. We can certainly
On a timeline.
do it on a timeline. We can certainly do whatever council would like.
No.
Everyone okay?
Except for 3 or 4 special agenda meetings. I know you don't want those.
We'll do whatever we need to do. Okay, is there anyone else that needs is there anything else we need to add?
Well, there is 2 other items I'd like to bring to your attention. One will be an additional action item added for Monday's meeting, and that is we will be requesting approval to transfer $16,999.20 from a fund, probably the general fund, we'll let you know at Monday's meeting, to the liquid fuels fund to repay a loan from the liquid fuels fund back in 2016. This is the result of an audit finding by the Pennsylvania Auditor General's Office conducted this year for fiscal years 2016 and 2017.
So, Mr. Mitchell, so I guess what I'm hearing is that we spent about $16,000 on something that wasn't roads related, that we took it out of that fund, but we never put it back in?
Actually, it was used for the street lighting fund because the street lighting fund was overspent. And it was never replenished.
Thank you.
And we're efforting as we speak to find out if the street lighting fund is in the financial position to
Put it back.
put the money back, or if we're going to have to do it from the general fund because the street lighting fund doesn't have sufficient funding to pay it back.
Got it. Okay.
Long story short, yeah. The second item, I don't think this is going to be an action item for Monday, but I wanted to bring to your attention, Public Works, John Lader, is working on a sinkhole issue at West Franklin and Harper. It's undermining the intersection there. This has been a problem for a long, long time. This is not anything new. It was scoped recently to determine whether it was water, sewer, or stormwater related. It appears to be stormwater related. So some sort of repair. We're not done diagnosing the total issue, but some sort of repair is going to be needed, and it could be as extensive as reconstructing the intersection. But we will get back to you in the future on that. I only bring it to your attention now because a couple of you have asked me about the status of it over the last couple of months, and I didn't want you to think we forgot about it, so.
Yeah, we've had some residents contact a few of us about it also. Okay. So it may not be an action item, it's just something that's,
Yeah, we won't have anything for Monday, but
Okay.
at some point, we're going to have to take some action on this, and depending on the expense, you may have to approve an emergency appropriation to deal with whatever has to be done there, unless the Public Works Department is able to do it all in-house. But let us figure some things out first before we commit.
Okay, this is just a heads up kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay, is that
So
it?
is it going to be an emergency situation? I mean, that intersection has been sinking for years. Is it because now we know about it, we have to do something and it's that bad, or?
Well, it's both. Have you heard of plate tectonics, where like plates shift and, but, you know,
It's not good.
it's a problem. Is it an emergency? No. An emergency would be we've got the intersection closed. But we can't keep ignoring it. So we're going to have to game out some sort of strategy to deal with it. So,
Hasn't swallowed any cars as of yet, right?
no, that would be an emergency.
Okay, we got that.
Mine will probably be the first one it swallows.
Okay. Well, then it'll be an emergency.
Okay, so there's nothing else added to the agenda, that's it, right? Okay, anyone else have anything else they'd like to add, talk about?
Just really quickly, I do have one interested borough student for the junior council person program, so just a reminder that that is still open. So if there are any borough residents, students that are juniors or seniors, please contact me or let the borough know.
Okay, did you give a, sorry, did you give a cutoff date as to when they could send their application for it, when that was?
No, I try to not do that because in the past that's happened and then people have, nobody's hit that date. It is tough when it's the beginning of the year. Sometimes certain schools are closed for heat, things like that. I guess we could say to the October meeting, but
Might have something
more
ready.
sooner than later.
Okay,
Is there a flyer that's being distributed that we can help get the word out on?
There's not a flyer, but it's on the website. It
Okay.
was in the Morrisville Times.
I saw it in the Times.
Said it in every meeting.
Okay,
We've had them for the last 4 years.
all right. All right, thank you. Okay, if there's nothing
I
else.
have two items I wanted to
Sure.
throw out there. One, I believe we got a resignation from somebody on the library board.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, go ahead and advertise that on the website for a little while. See if there's
Yes.
anybody interested in replacing them.
Yes. Yeah, end of September is the cutoff, right?
And second is, I think I brought this up a while ago, and I talked to Scott about it again, and he said bring it up in a meeting, but had a resident complain a while back about Hamilton Boulevard because it's a divided street, and then it's pretty wide in both parts. Sometimes people who may not be familiar with it do travel the wrong way up it, and I was hoping to have our engineer formally look at it and possibly sign it with just keep right signs, a few of them up and down the street.
I did ask the engineer about it. He didn't care either way. He didn't think it was that important, but we wouldn't engage the engineer for that. We could just have Public Works put those keep right signs up if council wishes to authorize that expenditure.
And Madam President, if I may,
Sure.
I'd like to add to what Justin was just talking about and point out that we also have openings for the appeals board, I believe.
There is?
Actually, I think council is the appeals board because there's no one else on it. And I thought that was done by design, but I might be
Okay, all
wrong.
right. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
I think it was in the packet, everyone got the newest update on the committees and the boards. I researched thoroughly agendas for years to get that up to speed because there were so many contradictions on when the positions were up. It was very confusing for the staff, so I helped them out by pulling all those agendas and correcting some of those dates. A lot of them were right. There was only a few this last time. There was only a couple, and even Corinne might be able to help them out. I think on the civil service, we weren't sure some of the expiration date on that. But everything else on that last one you sent us is the correct dates. So if you see them on there and the expiring times and when people were put on, that's all corrected. So you have the newest log of that internal, okay? As soon as we figure out the other two, we'll make that adjustment on civil service. Anyone else, anything else? Okay, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.